I think Abster is the next Toshi, and we're going to get into the comparison today, and we're going to get into why I think Abster will continue to run to hundreds of millions. So let's get on first with what was the Toshi thesis, okay? The Toshi thesis was simple at the beginning. It was the face of base. As base grows, Toshi will grow with it. Base does not have a token, so Toshi is the best way to get exposure to the chain. In fact, you would get leveraged exposure to the chain. After this thesis started playing out, we had a massive retracement, which I used to buy more and created the Coinbase listing thesis. So I was in Toshi. Let's go back on my Toshi trade. I was in Toshi all the way back here, below 60 mil, whatever. I was buying the dips here, and I ran it up all the way to 300 mil. Did I take profits? No. Had the thesis played out? No. So we ended up having a massive retracement. And when I say massive, in terms of percentage, this was 90%. So we had a 90% retracement, and I was allocating more on these dips here, okay? Now I was allocating more because we were down a large portion of percentage, I guess, and the thesis had not changed at all. On top of that, the thesis actually got better. Now December 9 was when I made my video, so that was here. Although I was buying here because this new addition to the thesis, which was, as you can see, why I think Toshi will get a Coinbase listing. And once again, I posted it on December 9th, but I had this thesis for a while. I was actually only posting the video to reply to someone that mentioned they thought that Toshi was going to get a Binance listing. But anyways, all you got to know is that Toshi ended up getting that Coinbase listing, and that's what made it pump massively. This was the announcement of Toshi getting, or added to the roadmap, where Coinbase was basically saying we will list Toshi. And then here, this massive pump up to 939 million was when it actually got added to Coinbase. So of course they announced that they're going to add the token to Coinbase, and then when they add it, it actually gave Toshi an opportunity to gain a bunch of inflows from people that wanted exposure to base chain, but they did not have the capabilities to, because they don't trade on chain, for example, okay? Now that's a peculiar situation, because usually we just see a pump on the listing announcement and that's it, but Toshi was different. And also I said that in my video, that was a huge part of the thesis, that Toshi would be different and that people would want to get exposure in the case that it did get a listing, that people would actually buy once it got listed. And now we see Toshi where it is now. It's at a 300 million market cap. This is insane performance. And I would say that Toshi is on the verge, or probably even is now considered what some people would say a social currency, like what Luca Net says, right? It's on the verge of becoming a global brand, an IP coin, and it is performing well. I would put it third after Pengu and Bonk. But yeah, that's the situation with Toshi. And once again, it's very interesting because one of the biggest things that I learned from Toshi is let the thesis play out. So one place where I took a lot of profits, and actually a lot of my friends took a lot of profits, was here. We took a lot of profits upon the listing announcement because we didn't trust our thesis. We didn't trust our thesis that, oh, once it actually gets listed, people will want exposure. And so we made a huge mistake there. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned. Okay? So one of the biggest things that I learned, let your thesis play out. Price going down does not invalidate the thesis. Buy the dips, 70 to 95% dips if underexposed, right? If you were buying Toshi, sure, yeah, you would have made a profit if you bought here at 300 mil and then sold the top here. But obviously, it would have been way better to buy these dips that were a 90, or I guess anywhere below an 80% retracement. So 80% to 90%, that would have been an insane entry, especially when the thesis ended up playing out. Okay, so yeah, that's what I learned. And it's very important to understand that price going down does not change the thesis. What is the Abster thesis? Let's compare it to Toshi now. Abster is the face of abstract. As abstract grows, Abster will grow with it. Abstract does not have a token, so this is the best way to get exposure to the chain. Now we have a massive retracement, which is giving a perfect entry. Centralized exchange listings are still on the table and can pump us hard, okay? Now, once again, one of the big things that made Toshi pump were the listings. Now, I think they got a listing somewhere here. I think this was a KuCoin listing, so good job there. And it pumped, and then the Coinbase listing was a lot bigger. Abster is probably going to get listings as well, which we will get into later in the video, and that could be a very bullish catalyst. Now, I want to go over this real quick. Obviously, Abster is the official mascot. Keep in mind, of course, Hedge was only talking about the character. This was before the chain even launched, so of course he wasn't talking about the meme coin. Important distinction there, but the same idea, the idea makes sense either way. It's bullish for the coin. Why? Because these are the advantages Abster has over Toshi. The character Abster is the official mascot of the chain, and it's not self-proclaimed. Did Coinbase ever say, hey, Toshi's our mascot? No, they didn't. So this means that Toshi had to compete with Brett and Miggles, for example, whereas Abster does not have to compete with other characters for mascot status because he's already the mascot. This means that Abstract uses Abster everywhere, putting him on chocolate in Dubai, handing out plushies at every event, dressing someone up in the Abster suit, etc. And here's the picture of the Abster on the Dubai chocolate that was token 2049 Dubai. But yeah, free mindshare / shills constantly from the Abstract team. Also allows Luca to pull levers to increase mindshare without having risk, like he would if he shilled any other meme coins. Now I say shilled in quotations because, you know, he's putting the character everywhere. He knows that's going to affect the price of the meme coin, but he's not shilling the coin, right? He's just increasing mindshare of the character, and he understands that there are going to be positive effects for the coin, but important to specify that anyways. Okay, so now I wanted to go over how these meme coins work. So as I already said, that Abster, the most important part is as Abstract grows, Abster will grow. And same thing with Toshi. As base grows, Toshi will grow. Now, the question is, if Abstract doesn't grow, then Abster won't grow either. And we've seen this before. A good example, it's not letting me show up, but it's not letting me search. But a good example, I can't even find the chain here. Ink Chain. Ink Chain has a mascot called Anita. Anita has been doing absolutely nothing. Why? Because the chain is trash. So, of course, you have to understand that, yeah, if you are bearish on Abstract, then there's nothing you could do. And you should be bearish on the mascot too. But if you're bullish on Abstract, then you should be bullish on Abster. Now, I want to go over, which is the most important part, why Abstract will come back. It's important to realize that when Toshi was down, whatever, 80, 90%, everyone was fudding base chain and everyone was fudding Toshi. And everyone was saying base is never coming back, it's dead ecosystem, and you know, the usual bottom signals that you would see and FUD. So when it comes to Abstract, we're seeing something like that as well. Now, if Abstract is actually never coming back, then we're going to go lower, and these people that are FUDding are going to be right. But why would Luca do that? Luca can use this opportunity, Abstract, to bring billions of dollars in value to Igloo Inc. Igloo Inc. is the parent company that owns Pudgy Penguins and other companies along with Abstract. So Luca wants to bring value to Igloo Inc. And by bringing value to Igloo Inc., he will effectively make money. So for him, he has a lot on the line. Do you think he's just going to leave the chain as is? Well, there is a little, I guess, caveat, which is he might take too long to cook, in which case a bear market might happen. Okay, but looking at what I believe with macro conditions, I think Bitcoin is actually bullish going into 2026. I think Q1 is almost for sure going to be bullish for Bitcoin. Q2 is probably bullish, but it's probably a bit too early to tell. But we're going to see as time goes on. We'll reevaluate. But yeah, going on to this, let's hear what Luca himself has to say about him cooking. He already gave us the playbook that Abstract has. They have wanted to go quiet and cook all at once for a while. We are just waiting for these updates to come out, okay? So let's listen here.
And we haven't shipped that many updates recently because we're working on one big, giant monster update that's going to really change the experience. And then I think, like, once you see that update come, you're probably going to see, like, us, announce a fundraise. So, another thing is, like, capital constraints. We haven't had tens of millions of dollars to open the marketing floodgates. I don't need that much, but having a huge treasure chest is something we've never had over at the Igloo or in either of our respective companies. And so I am fundraising for Abstract, and so being able to pull the fuel in the fire. So I think you're going to see those kind of tangential.
Okay, so he gave us the playbook, okay? His playbook is very simple. It's launch the updates that they've been working on for months. And I'm going to go over why it's a fair argument that you say, oh, they're probably not going to cook, right? Like, look, this podcast was from 2 months ago. So if you really want to make a bear case, you're like, oh, well, Luka hasn't cooked yet. So therefore, Luka won't continue to cook, or he won't ever ship these updates. But I actually hopped on a call with Luka, and he actually shared basically what he said here. He just confirmed his idea. He said, like, listen, these updates are taking longer than expected. It's dev work, right? And dev work gets pushed back a lot. And he said he's expecting these updates to come before the end of the year. Okay, so this I think is aligned with other things as well. So I think Pengu is going to cook Q4 because I know Luka has also been saving a bunch of bullish announcements for Pengu for Q4. So he's going to try to cook for Pengu. Then Bitcoin is probably going to continue to be bullish. And then he's going to ship updates for Abstract. And that's going to start the whole flywheel. And once he ships those updates, then he's going to raise funds. Because the better the product that you have, the more money, or at least the higher valuation, you will be able to raise funds at. And obviously you want to raise funds at the highest valuation possible. So this is the plan that Luka has. Now, once he raises funds, he's going to use those funds for marketing. And what does marketing entail? Well, in the past, when they did marketing in Dubai, it entailed putting Abster everywhere. So are they going to do the same? Well, if they do, then that's mega bullish for Abster. On top of that, what is he going to do when the portal updates, the massive rebranding, the massive updates have been shipped, and now he has a lot of money and he's working on marketing? Well, why wouldn't it be best to TGE into that hype, right? Now he's created this hype. He's created these portal updates, so he's got a good product. Now he's shipping more updates. Now he's marketing the chain. That's the perfect time to TGE so that you can get the highest valuation upon token launch as possible. If a TGE happens, we've already expressed this, Luka is very generous. He wants to reward a bunch of core Abstract users, and that's millions of dollars, and depending on the valuation, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars injected into the Abstract ecosystem. That would be an insane liquidity injection, and a lot of people are underestimating it, okay? Now, I wanted to go over the next part. Not only will the updates come, but they will then raise funds and start marketing the chain, leading to an eventual TGE. So basically what I already said. Just as Toshi skyrocketed because of a centralized exchange listing, Abster can as well. Luka will still try and set meme coins up with centralized exchange listings. Abster is the first choice with this. So one thing that I want to emphasize is why Toshi pumped so much upon an exchange listing. We saw Mog get an exchange listing for Coinbase at a similar time, I think a bit earlier than Toshi. So that was actually better for them because the situation was less diluted. This was before Coinbase was adding a bunch of meme coins. What happened to the Mog chart? Well, I can't search it up here because I'm having whatever connection issues to Dex Creator. But what happened was it made a tiny pump on the day, and that wick was sold into. So why was that different for Toshi? Because of the valuations. Toshi was a 50 mil or 60 mil market cap meme coin. Mog was a 1 billion market cap meme coin. So the same amount of inflows going into Mog, which might push up the Mog price like 5%, are going to push Toshi up like 20% to 100%. So when Toshi got a bunch of inflows at its very low market cap, it just pumped an insane amount. Now, seeing as Abster can have the same thing happen, why can the same thing happen for Abster? Because Luka is willing to connect the Abstract teams to get centralized exchange listings. So let's listen to what he has to say here.
The meme ecosystem is going to have to be the place where I lead the most. Like I'm gonna have to be the leader and the champion there. There's a lot of app marketing. I got the best in the world for that when the time is ready. Saigar and crew are building the best product. Peter's leading the charge on what this looks like. NFTs and memes are going to be the places that I'm going to have to lead and help the most. And they know, like, I'm giving these guys the playbook. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but I used to do weekly masterminds with them. I've now broken up, I think, every 2 weeks. But I'm giving them the playbook, right? And so I'm giving them all the information that they need. I think you'll start to see some sex listings for some of our favorite coins here shortly.
Okay, so Luca talks about centralized exchange listings. And once again, this is the same video from 2 months ago. So your argument is perfectly valid. Well, if he didn't do them then why would he do them now? Well, the point is he knows that abstract meme coins have to do well. Okay, so he's gonna do a lot to ensure that they do well. What's one way that he could really help? Centralized exchange listings. Why? I don't know if you guys know this, but Pengu is listed on basically every centralized exchange out there. That was one of the main things Luca tried to do. He's got these connections to every single centralized exchange, and he's going to help, even though Abster is a very low market cap, he's going to help them get centralized exchange listings. Okay, now that's one thing that, once again, you could say, oh, 2 months ago, why haven't we seen it? Well, I do want to point out that there's only been one exchange that's added abstract support. So Luca in an Inner Igloo was actually confronted with this fact. Like, oh, you said abstract meme coins would get centralized exchange listings. And he said, well, a lot of these exchanges are adding support for abstract, but they don't have support yet. So they're working on it. And right now, I think only Binance US has support for abstract. So I guess that's the only exchange that would be allowed to list meme coins, like physically possible to list meme coins on abstract. So keeping that in mind, I think it just takes some time, but I think Luca still understands that he could set these guys up with centralized exchange listings, and he is going to do that when the time comes, okay? So I think that's a very bullish factor that a lot of people don't realize. Now, the next thing is Luca knows abstract needs $1 billion runner or as high as possible. Abster is the easiest one he can pull strings to ensure it runs. Once again, this goes back to him being able to shill Abster because it's the mascot, right? If people complain, oh, you're putting this coin, this meme coin everywhere, why are you doing that? You're just trying to pump a coin. And he's like, what do you mean? He's our mascot. It's not our fault that a community created a coin about him, right? It's a very easy way that Luca can get out of that situation. So he's going to continue to put Abster everywhere, and this is the one coin that he can pull the strings on, I guess. Okay, so let's listen to what he has to say here.
And lastly, as the abstract meme starting gaining momentum now, how do you plan to push the meme culture, especially with a lot of interesting IP and side characters there? Thank you.
Yeah, it's great questions. The first one is, what does Abstract need? Abstract needs $1 billion runner, and it needs an app that has everyone FOMOing into the ecosystem at mass. Mm-hmm. So it needs like a friend tech style app are the two things I think we're optimizing for.
Okay, so if you don't think that Luca is going to at least try to make meme coins pump, then I don't know what you're talking about. So he also says specifically $1 billion runner. It's very tough to focus on many memes all at once, especially when one narrative is way better than another. It would be very useless if the Coinbase team decided to list a meme coin, I don't know, some random meme coin that was not Toshi. Toshi had established themselves. Toshi had been building on Coinbase and had helped Base Chain along the way for a very long time. So if Coinbase had disrespected them by giving another random meme coin a lot of help and trying to make them equal to Toshi, then that would be an issue. It's way easier to king make one coin than to work on many different coins, especially when you consider the fact that so many coins, like 90% of coins in general, rug, and it's hard to put your trust in the majority of these coins. So the point is, you need $1 billion runner, and Abster is the one that he can pull the most strings for, okay? Now, all of this tied together is very important to look at with the context of the chart. Because if you were buying at the top here, this was like, what, 2 months ago? Yeah, a couple months ago. This was when this interview, or at least what Luca was saying here, was already known. So what does that mean? That means that all of this was priced in at the top. So all of these bullish factors that I'm talking about here, if you were looking at it from the top, the majority of it was priced in. Obviously, if Abster did get a centralized exchange listing, it would have pumped here, but it was still priced in. The immediate reaction was probably mainly priced in, and it probably wouldn't have had a large effect on the price. Whereas down here, all of these bullish factors are priced out. So this creates a situation where the risk is the same as it was at 40 mil. The risk is still Abster goes to absolute zero, which, by the way, I don't think it does for all the reasons I shared in this video. But yeah, the risk is still 100% of your money lost, but the reward is at least 10x, right? This is a situation where we get to all-time highs and then we do a 2x from all-time highs. Like, that's not very, very far-fetched at all. Or if Luka's plan ends up playing out and the abstract team absolutely cooks, and then we go to $1 billion because he wants $1 billion runner, that's where you get a 100x. Okay, so this is an insane risk to reward opportunity. If you invest $1,000 and we go to 100 mil at this price, you invest $1,000, then you have 10K. If we go to $1 billion, then you have 100K. Like, these numbers are insane, and Luka's not gonna let this chain die. Yes, things are taking longer than expected. And if you believe, this is a big if you believe that a bear market is more likely to happen, let's just say now, let's say you think Bitcoin's already topped and it's all downhill from here, then yeah, you have reason to not get more exposure. But in the case that Bitcoin does not hit a bear market before abstract cooks, which we know they will want to do, because this will add billions of dollars directly into Luka's pockets, then Abster is going to run very hard, okay? So that's what you have to understand. It's an insane thesis with insane risk, an insane risk to reward ratio, where we are down 77% from all-time highs. The absolute bottom was 82%. And when the market gets good again, Bitcoin is going to all-time highs. Pengu is also running hard. Abstract is cooking on their developments. Abstract starts marketing and puts Abster everywhere. Then an eventual TGE happens, which injects hundreds of millions of dollars into the ecosystem, and we will get an insane run for Abster. Now, I've been bullish on Abster even as we go up, right? I was bullish on Abster at 40 mil. I was bullish at the top, of course, because the thesis hadn't changed. Now I'm bullish here as well. I was bullish here. I was bullish here. I was bullish this whole time. Why? Because the thesis hasn't changed. But what does change is the risk to reward ratio. When I was buying at 400K, this was insane risk to reward ratio. The reward was whatever, 500x, and the risk was 100%. Same thing here. Now we are at a massive dip. Everything is priced out. If everything that happened before gets speculated on again, we at least have, like, what is this? Let me check. We at least have what is this? We at least have 300%, 330% to all-time highs. And then when we go past all-time highs, then that's even more, right? Look, 1,000%, 10x to 100 mil. Insane returns. Now, I think that's all for this video, but I think a lot of people are missing the bigger picture. The thesis remains the same. The price has changed. That just increases or decreases risk to reward ratio. Remember, the higher we are, the lower the risk to reward ratio. It's a bit more risky. You get less reward. But now that we're at a massive dip, you have insane risk to reward again. So this is a great opportunity. And by the way, I'm not saying Abster can't go lower. I'm not saying that we can't dip down to whatever, 5 mil and have a full 90% retracement like what Toshi had, right? That would be below 5 mil. But what I am saying is that here, the risk to reward is worth it, assuming you think a bear market will not happen before Luka cooks. But yeah, thanks all for listening. Super excited to see how this plays out. Super, super bullish. And I think we're going to be at all-time highs in no time.